In today's video, I'm building a bookcase that turns into a table very easily, and then I'm converting it into an indoor garden. Okay, so this project is actually pretty simple. We've got a couple of sides, stretchers on the bottom and top, and we've got these little brackets that the shelves screw to, and four pieces that act as a parallelogram, and I'll explain that later in the video. And then a shelf on the bottom. That's all there is to this project. Now, what I've done is I've taken two pieces of 1/2-inch plywood, actually one piece, cut out two of these legs, and I'm gonna glue them together. Now that's gonna give me a little bit more strength than if I just would have used 3/4-inch plywood. I also cut in some of these pockets here to receive the stretchers, which we're gonna cut out of alder. So, let's glue things up. I want to show you guys something real quick. I want you to look at this cut right here. You can see there's just a little bit of roughness to it, which is perfect for a glue up, good mechanical bond. And I leave a Prestige 40 tooth in my table saw for pretty much every operation, whether I'm cutting plywood, MDF, or hardwoods. And I know it's maybe not a popular opinion, but it's really one of those things where with a decent blade like the Prestige 40 tooth, gets the job done pretty quick as long as your feed rates are the same. So you move the board through the material at the same speed all the way through the cut. You get these really high quality cuts. Now, if this was a finished edge, this would take nothing to sand it out really quickly, and it would take less time to sand this out quickly than it would to change the blade to a finer tooth blade. So just think about that when you're, looking at buying table saw blades. Just one good 40 tooth Prestige is really all you need, or you could go 60 tooth if you wanted to. I find the 40 tooths last a little longer. Don't ask me why, I don't know. So now that we have all the parts made, I'm going to start putting this together. Now I want to have some separation between the shelf brackets and the two side pieces, or parallelograms, the two pieces that hold everything together. So I'm using some washers for that. Now, trying to put those washers in between two parts could get a little fiddly. So to make my job a little bit easier, I just glued some washers in place on the stanchions with some 2P10 and some activators so they would dry quickly. Now that just holds everything in place and makes it nice and easy to put this whole thing together. Now previously in the video, you saw me use a drill with a 3/8 bit to tap out some threads in those alder stanchions, and that just made this whole operation go really quickly. I was able to line things up and then just use my screw gun to run some 3/8 bolts into the side pieces. The trick with this was making sure I didn't over tighten them. They need to be snug, but not over tight, because then it would make, actuating the shelves a lot more tricky. Now, I realize this seems a little bit fancy when you see the whole thing moving, but honestly, it's not much more difficult than building just a regular bookshelf. So you have shelves with little side pieces, and then you have, your front and back stanchions. We'll just keep calling them that for lack of a better term. But instead of them being fixed, they have a pivot point. That's literally all this is. Now on mine, I left some gaps in between the shelves. Now this is for down the road when I'm doing hydroponics. I will have a tube that feeds each of the trays. That's for my microgreens for this same setup here. Right for now, we're just using it for seed propagation, and I'll show you all that at the end of the video. So after it was all screwed together, I just opened it and closed it a few times just to make sure that nothing was too tight or too loose. And then I had to start working on the base. Now the base is really simple. We cut that out on the CNC. If you wanted to make one, it wouldn't have to be anything that fancy. Literally just a 4x4 coming up with a good solid base would work fine for this. Now, because I glued my two side pieces together, I had a little squeeze out inside those little pockets. So rather than messing with trying to clean up the squeeze out, I just chamfered each of those stretchers that go between the two side pieces. Now go ahead and slap those together, and then I'm pre-drilling some holes because I'm going into end grain on alder. And even though I'm using Power Pro screws, which are amazing screws, I don't want to chance a split. So I pre-drilled them and then just bolted them right into place. Now these are a larger head Power Pro screw, so that gives it a nice clamp and holds everything together. So after I had the stretchers on the bottom of the legs, I wanted to put a shelf on the bottom for a hydroponic tank. And again, this will make more sense down the road. If you follow me on Instagram, I tend to post almost every day over there with things that are going on around the garden and the shop and just all that stuff. So rather than doing any crazy joinery, I cut the bottom panel out to size and then just dropped it in place and then pre-drilled some holes so I knew that the screws would go in nice and straight, and used some Power Pro trim screws to hold that whole bottom piece in place. Now before I mount the bookcase part of this to the base, I need to have two little cantilevered pieces. Now these pieces do a bunch of different things. They stop it from opening up too far, they stop it from closing too far, and they hold this to the base. So making sure the math on these is really accurate is very important. So with those in place, it was just a matter of opening this thing up. It's a lot easier to install it in the bookshelf position than in the table position, and then centering it out on the base and bolting it down. Now, if you wanted to do the same thing and use it for a table, you could, and you could make it so the shelves came together nice and tight so there's no air gap in there. Like I said before, I want the air gap in there for tubing, for water supplies, and for wiring. The way I made it right here, it's pretty stable. It does have a little bit of movement in it, but it wouldn't be tricky to make the whole thing very stable. And I'll actually have a set of plans out and a video out for doing one into a table. Okay, so this is what this particular one is for. This is going to be microgreens and seed propagation. Right now it's all seed propagation. I'm getting ready for the growing season. The benefit for this is the lights are here, plant's here, and when I need to work on it, I'm not stuck bending way over. I can just pull it out from the wall and tilt it down. So now everything's at a very comfortable height for me to work at for watering, planting seeds, putting in new, pulling out new, and that makes it a lot more pleasant of an experience than having to try and deal with something on a bookshelf. So here we're going to be doing a whole grow room. This whole downstairs is going to be a growing area. So this one is for seed propagation and microgreens, and the next one we build will be a full-on hydroponic system with the same type of setup. So we can tilt it up, push it into like a bookcase formation, pull it out, and grow enough food to feed well over a family of 4 in a very small one, extra bedroom in our house. That's the plan. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this build. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Love to hear a comment down in the comment section below about what you think about this, and if you'd be interested in seeing more about hydroponics. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care.